Welcome to another episode of Labstream AI. Today's guest is someone who brings a remarkable ability to excel across multiple domains, from project engineering to finance, technology, and strategic leadership. Greg Fulk's career spans construction, real estate, IT, and financial analysis, but what's truly unique is his talent for connecting the dots between them. As a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy and the George Washington School of Business, Greg brings both disciplined execution and innovative thinking to any challenge he tackles. I'm excited to explore his perspective on hidden costs of rapid scaling in fintech. Greg, before we dive into fintech and scaling, I'd love for our listeners to hear more directly from you. Could you share a little bit more about your journey and what drives you, your approach to leadership?
Yeah, hey Maybach, thanks for having me. What a privilege to be a part of you, part of this event here. Truly kind of a fortunate background in that I got to spend some time in the Air Force, and the military gives you these opportunities for which you're not quite prepared. So you get to learn real quick how to learn hard things. And so whether I was in the real estate world or one of my first executive roles running a wealth management firm, kind of had that backing of wherever there's a problem, there's an opportunity. And so trying to figure out how can we make things more efficient? How can we solve problems in such a way that hopefully a year from now and 5 years from now, they won't still be problems. So building solutions that scale it's what I've tried to do. I haven't always hit it successfully, but it's something I've certainly strove towards for most of my career.
Solutions guy myself, trying to neutralize even things that happen in my marriage that I can just calm down and solution so we have long-term peace. So I appreciate that. From technology to family, it's all real. You've navigated a career that spans engineering, finance, IT, and leadership. How has that multidisciplinary background shaped the way you tackle business growth?
I've been accused of being a corporate Swiss Army knife, and it's something I really kind of internalize. I like to think I have a breadth of knowledge that's maybe a mile wide, but only an inch deep. But what I find is, especially with the startup, as small businesses are growing, when you have somebody that can kind of understand finance and accounting and kind of understands HR and technology and compliance, you can really build systems that all point towards the same goal, right? So when your payroll and your personnel management integrate with your finance and accounting, you can really grow for a long time without having to put those specialists in place. And so I do have that generalist mindset where I'd rather be kind of good at a lot of things than really, really good at any one thing. Recognizing, of course, we need experts too, and there's an absolute time and place and role for them. And I've been privileged to work with a bunch through my career.
I think every corporation needs I call it a utility back in football, call it a Swiss Army knife, but someone who can run the ball, pass the ball, catch the ball, do what it takes to get the job done. How do you think your experience in the Air Force Academy influenced your approach to problem solving and team building?
So the Air Force Academy is one of the more unique college experiences. One of the things they make everyone take a 90-hour core curriculum. So whether you're going to be a chemistry major or physics or management, you want to be a pilot, it doesn't matter. Everybody there is going to take chemistry. Everyone's going to take physics. Everyone's going to take aeronautical engineering and astrophysics and thermodynamics. In these classes, you think, oh, I'm never going to use this stuff. But you start to figure out how the different disciplines approach problem solving. So whether it's a management issue or a thermodynamics issue, you start to think, what are the building blocks to problem solving? And my first job in the Air Force, they assigned me to be a project manager on the GPS satellite. I have a chemistry degree, really don't know much about satellites, but all of a sudden I've got these truly PhD rocket scientists who I'm working with, and boy, I certainly am not at their level, but I know just enough to know what questions to ask. And so grateful for that opportunity to say, what are all these disciplines? What does it mean to put these different building blocks together?
Just enough to be dangerous. I love that. That's like when I travel around the world, I learn about, I can say hi, how are you in different languages. The next thing you know, the person's talking to me like I'm their friend. I'm like, I was just kidding. I don't know how to speak French or Spanish or Chinese, but I know how to say how are you.
Exactly.
Can you share a little example from your career where adaptability was the key to success?
Yeah, so I think about my role so I was an executive at a wealth management firm, and we're heavily regulated, and so rules come down the pipe all the time. And the way the regulators regulate, they often put out policy, but it's up to you to figure out a way to solve them. And so we know we're delivering financial advice, or the advisors are delivering financial advice in a certain way, and a rule comes down and says, hey, you're not allowed to talk about testimonials, you're not allowed to advertise the way you used to. And so you need to quickly take all of this social capital that you've built up, all of this kind of online presence, and say, well, how can we parlay this into the next level of advertising that's still compliant with the new rules? Because you definitely want to follow the rules. It pains me to say, but the regulator rules really are protecting the consumer. They're protecting the investor. So you want to comply as you can. And so now we have to quickly pivot to put all new platforms in place. We have to change our marketing strategy on the fly, which means everything people have known on how to give business, how to get business, to give response. We've got to put new platforms in place. So it requires a lot of open-mindedness, a lot of patience, and I tend to adopt the test 10 things as quickly as possible and discard the 5, discard the 6 that are horrible, and then take the 4 and iterate, test, discard, iterate. So it's that high degree, don't be afraid to fail mentality that I just find so valuable. Jeff Bezos had a great publication probably 10 years ago where he talks about one-way doors and two-way doors, meaning there are decisions that you just can't go back from. But that is very, very rare in business. It's the two-way doors. There's so many things, especially with technology. You can implement a system. If it doesn't work, it's usually not that hard to undo it, depending on how you did it. So taking those risks, iterating, moving fast, getting feedback, building that plan, that's the way to run and scale a business, in my opinion.
Totally agree. Fail first fast is the best way. You got to just jump in and get out if it doesn't make sense. That's coming from a true entrepreneur like yourself. I mean, I share those same experiences, and I really believe that firmly. Now, as we wind towards the conversation topic about AI, in your experience, what are the most overlooked operational costs that emerge when a tech company, fintech, any software as a service companies, deal with when they're scaling rapidly?
So, we think about, I mean, our top, so you think about your cost of goods sold as you develop on the fintech side, as you deploy an application, what is it going to cost your AWS instance? What's your Azure cost going to be? We love integrating AI. How are you predicting or how are you predicting your token costs in and out? How are you modeling that? So much of this is new. So much of this is changing so quickly. How are you keeping an eye on those cost of goods sold? And then the second piece is just your cost to developers. Yes, they're using AI. Yes, they're more efficient than they've ever been. Yes, they like to get paid, and yes, they like to eat. So you really, making sure you're able to keep an eye on what they're doing, you're prioritizing, you're listening to them. They often have way better ideas about how to scale, how to prioritize, but it's got to stay in line with your vision. You can't have them go too far down the wrong path. And then next thing you know, you have to bring them back, and that was lost cost. That cost of development, that cost of the real cycle times, I mean, those are big real costs. And when you scale fast, to my two-way doors, you want to take risks, you want to move fast, but man, those costs can quickly come back to say, I thought our token costs were here, and all of a sudden we get a 4, a 5, a 6-figure bill. You need to be on top of that.
Yeah, no, I can't tell you how many times I've seen, projects where the team is actually not doing what they're supposed to, and they're building something that's not even towards the MVP, and it's created, leaks in whether it's your data systems that create that little issue, or data's just running, and the next thing you know, you got a big 6-digit bill. So I completely appreciate that. Spot on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
How do you think AI-powered analytics can help leaders identify these hidden costs before they become significant problems?
So there's a couple layers. There's embracing the AI to do the work, right? And there's a million podcasts, and there'll be at least a million more. But then zooming out, and really the power of explaining your business process to some of these AI tools, and having AI help you manage itself is this weird is a step where I'm just now getting comfortable with. It's almost this recursive process of asking AI for advice, and then asking it to evaluate the advice it gave you and having it optimize it for cost. Because when you ask AI whether it's how to code, and coding is a great example to say, hey, build some code for me, test some code for me, check some code for me. You have to ask it again to say, now what is this going to cost? And especially if we're using API keys and we're counting tokens, asking it to say, is there a more optimal way to minimize the cost of this? That it's not volunteering it. It's not volunteering that information for you. That's a very proactive step to say, great, we've got working compiled code now. Um, is there a more streamlined way to do this in terms of storage costs, token costs, processor costs, uh, even having a second AI system? So if you're writing everything with Perplexity or with Claude as an agent, having ChatGPT do a look and say, evaluate what this other tool gave me and tell me what you think.
It's interesting for the cross evaluation. I think taking a step back before that is the data in. You've heard that garbage in, garbage out. That's what scares me about AI because it doesn't really have those intelligence systems. It's very like dependent on us to feed it. So if you ask it something and it has no back basis, you're going to be like going to the woods.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I love the language models, or I should say the user interfaces that kind of allow you to create projects that save an entire specific stream of thought in kind of a query base into one project. So whenever you ask, your ChatGPT, new business project, it kind of knows what you've already asked it, so you don't have to re-explain. Because often it's the re-explaining is where you really get the context and the key output. But if it already knows all the context, it's a lot easier to say, okay, what do I do next? And everybody knows what you mean. Whereas if you just go to a new tool, a Grok from scratch, and say, how do I optimize this code? It doesn't have that history. So I find the tools are getting rapidly better at saving and incorporating context into decision making.
I mean, I know you're the founder of Email Vault, which is interesting. You talk about data and integrity and archive files, and that was in your recent blog. What role does data quality play in preventing these expensive inefficiencies during the scaling phase?
Well, you keep hitting it right on with that garbage in, garbage out, right? Especially if you're asking an LLM or an AI tool to evaluate data, it's not going to be able to create better data for you. One of the advantages we have with Email Vault is we archive the way we set up is we make a copy of all the email from a company, both outgoing and incoming. We set it in our archive, and then we can constantly train and deploy tools and agents on top of that. But the data never changes. And sometimes in some of the other tools, when AI is creating data that's training itself, you can kind of see the stupid loop, if you will. You can kind of see the like, boy, a bad idea. I mean, it used to take young lieutenants like me to create ideas that bad. It would take weeks. But now an AI loop can come up with a dumb idea and iterate on a dumb idea, and you feel stuck, you feel lost. So maintaining that data integrity, making sure that even a bug in the code, even a corruption in the data is caught and discarded and doesn't recursively feed back into itself. Just so important.
Integrity, being an information system guy myself. I'm not a chemist like you, but I definitely you can be off with one of those things on the org chart, and you got a different atom being created. So data
Without a doubt.
integrity is very important. How do you think AI assists in maintaining a strong company culture when a fintech organization is doubling or tripling in size?
Hopefully you can leverage AI to help you find the best in people. There's a million use cases, and we help with some of the use cases to help avoid risk and maybe find the worst. But we also strive on how can you, for example, how can you identify burnout? Right, big issue. We're all expected to work twice as fast, three times as fast, because by goodness, we have all these AI tools. Well, how can we harness a tool like an AI tool to say who's working too hard? Who's working from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. at night every night? Who's working all day Sunday to catch up? That's a great use case to say, man, let them know that is not the expectation. They're doing great, because you never got that feedback in the past. All your boss knew was, did you get the job done? My gosh, I don't care what it takes to get the job done, just get it. Well, now you can actually evaluate work habits, work patterns. And it used to be you got up and you walked around the office at 4 o'clock. And if nobody was there, boy, the old man was pissed, like, what's going on? And now we talk about work-life balance, and we talk about work from home. We give people all these remote tools. And if you've got a young family, or you like working out after work, or you just like pickleball, be home from 4 to 7. I know you're not working. That's great. And I know you're working in the evenings. I know you're catching up. I know you're an early morning bird. I know you like to get up early. It kind of doesn't matter. And we have these AI tools that can give us a little bit of assurance to say, oh no, we've watched the whole workflow. We've evaluated the product. It's meeting our expectations. Who cares about timing? Like, what a great use case for AI.
Work for you. You're that guy that understands just get the job done. If you need to take a break now, go pick up the kids, just get it done later. I share that same mentality. It's like, just get it done. I don't care what you're doing. I'm not going to sit there and monitor you. So that's really good. That helps you empower your team and you scale them quickly. And that trust is really important between leadership and your colleagues. So I love that you share that mindset.
Time is always better spent managing output than managing hours, right? I don't
Oh,
I don't
totally.
I don't really like an output has value. I kind of don't care how many hours it takes to get to it. Hopefully, if you can get a day's worth of work done in just a couple hours, like that's a win, man. Like I got the output I needed and you got more free time, like high five, like we're both winning here.
Exactly. I totally agree. I used to get something done in 8 hours. If they think it takes 40, take a break.
Mhm.
You got it done. Yeah, that's awesome. So, in terms of compliance and regulatory risk, how can machine learning tools help reduce the cost of scaling while it's still meeting those requirements?
Yeah, so this is one of the big risks, especially in the wealth management space, is you have stacks of policies and procedures, very clear agreements with clients, and then very clear government regulatory disclosures. They call it this trifecta, and making sure the three of those things are all telling the same story is has always historically been manual. I mean, you think about telling your client what your privacy policy is, and then your marketing team thinking, well, we're going to change a little bit of this, and then not knowing that your disclosures are update. Now you have machine learning tools that finally can read all three, can coordinate all three. And now, if you're the marketing team and you say, hey, if we want to change our marketing posture, if we want to direct contact, if we want to upsell, if we want to connect, what do we have to do that legally, right? So strictly with our compliance hat on, do we have to update a disclosure? Does this change our client agreement? It didn't require people reading through these docs and using their best discretion. Now we can have a tool that quickly analyzes all three or all our sources of truth and puts something in place. Again, that used to require a lot of people and caused firms, good firms who want to follow the rules, it caused them to move far more slowly than they otherwise had to. But now a good chief compliance officer, now a good compliance team can easily say, review everything, see what people are doing. If it finds anybody outside of tolerance, can quickly identify and correct somebody before you've got 2 years of them delivering something, saying something, practicing in a fashion that's outside of the disclosure or that's outside of the regulation. So such a force multiplier.
Yeah, for sure. You nailed it. Today, listening, I'm like, ears are peeled. I'm like, hey, looking at it and wind down here, what AI-driven solutions, and you can't say email vault, okay? I know I love everything you're doing, no I'm kidding. But it could be, what AI-driven solutions do you think will most likely transform the way fintech leaders, anyone in the technology space, approach a sustainable scaling model?
So today we're going to look at a lot of the. I think you're going to look at the end user focus, the ChatGPTs, the Groks, the Geminis. Gemini being uniquely powerful in its ability to not only read all your email but read all your files. If you're a Google Workspace customer, they seem to be far more user friendly than the equivalent kind of Copilot model inside the Microsoft environment. I still think the things that are taking
Are
people
you,
most time.
sorry,
Yeah.
Are you like Copilot in the email? Because I was really fascinated with the email vault and how you're literally archiving and the way you're searching and the way you're finding like golden nuggets in the email. Is that kind of like a Copilot feature?
It's a little similar. The way we're architected is we send every email in or out, we send it past an AI prompt, and we ask that AI to evaluate it and apply a series of tags to it. So with my company,
Oh, so
Email
you're
Vault,
classifying all of it, so you're organizing it with metadata.
that's exactly it. Large scale data labeling. So and we want, not only do we want to evolve our list over time, we want to give our clients the power to build their own list, and evolve their own data labeling scheme. So right now, I can easily find whether it's spam newsletter. That stuff's pretty easy. Is it negative sentiment? Right? Does this have some negativity in it? And then you can say, well, show me all the inbound negative sentiment emails, because that to me sounds a lot like a client complaint or a pissed off vendor or somebody that, if it's Saturday morning and you're an executive, that's what you want to know about your business. Is there somebody angry with us, right?
Yeah, no,
If
Yeah,
If you're
this
an
is
HR,
this type of top level dashboard business intelligence for the executive is for because they don't know what's going
Mhm.
on. They can't talk to the sales guys. They don't know that this guy's not behaving properly or he's mismanaging expectations. And your systems make that well you can design it that way for the CEO of any enterprise, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, even a small medium sized business, get that sentiment so they can adapt and make things continue to be frictionless. Right? I mean,
exactly. And so not only can they look outside and say what's going on with my client base, my prospect base, my customer base, but they can say, hey, HR, just like we looked for negative sentiment emails coming in, what if it was a solely internal email or an internal Teams message? Did any of that get tagged with negative sentiment? And maybe we've got some internal communication issues that we can get ahead of. When people ask, what's our culture? How's it going? Are people happy to work here? Does it look like are we seeing a lot more positive than negative sentiment? And we'll actually line that up for you. Merrick, I'll show you your emails and I'll show you your negative to positive ratio. And like we can just look, and if it's negative, sometimes people need direct feedback, and it's okay to be direct sometimes, and sometimes that feels negative, and that's okay. But if you were all negative all the time, I'd like let's just sit and talk. What's going on? Maybe that's an opportunity to give you more resources because we're burning you out. Maybe you don't know your communication. I'm well into the Gen X, and I know the Gen Zs have been taught to communicate a little more friendly than we were. So maybe it's our communication style. Maybe I need to use some emojis. Yeah, maybe I need to use a smiley face once every now and then instead of bullet points and periods.
explanation point, explanation point.
Exactly.
Your insights today have been both eye-opening and incredibly practical. Rapid scaling in fintech doesn't have to mean costly mistakes. With the right mindset and the right tools, leaders can achieve sustainable and profitable growth. I really thank you for sharing your expertise and giving our listeners so much to think about. Until then, scale smart, lead with purpose, and keep innovating. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Merrick. Sure appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg.